Hello, welcome and bienvenue to a special French edition of This Racing Life. We're here in autumnal Chantilly to find out more about the history of this great equine institution in the flat and national hunt spheres. Here's what's coming up on this week's show at the home of French horse racing.
Actually, I changed my way of training 2 years ago, completely. Because I was upset to see English and Irish horses coming to beat us all the time at Longchamp.
Yeah, we knew each other, we were acquaintances before we set up, so it was a bit of a risk.
Noel struggles with the French paperwork and you probably don't necessarily want to be training, so I think you'd be a good match.
French flat racing has enjoyed quite the resurgence on British shores in the last 12 months, with Francis-Henri Graffard leading the charge with the likes of Calandagan and Goliath. We've come down to his yard near Chantilly racecourse to find out a little bit more about his savoir-faire.
It has been a very strong season at every level of competition. The stable have been very competitive. And obviously Calandagan and Goliath put her on the map internationally, and we were delighted because they're very good horses, and we had a plan with them and the plan worked, so we were very pleased with that.
And it does seem as though every year your stable here is improving and gaining more success.
Yes, every year is a new challenge. 1st of January we will restart with 0 winners, you know. So it's every year we have to prove we can be competitive. This year has been very strong. Quality of the horses, the number, and also the quality of my horses is improving.
You've had plenty of success internationally this year. Is going abroad with the right sort of horse something that you've always wanted to do if you had the right ammunition?
It has always been my goal to have the quality of horses to be able to travel and compete around the world. It's a challenging job. It's all about competition and you have to expose yourself, and so when you come to the King George with a 28-1 horse, you really expose yourself, but sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
If we can rewind for now to your first foray into training, how did you get into racing itself as a trainer?
Well, basically my grandfather, I'm from Burgundy, and we had a farm. He was a doctor. Nobody is into racing in my family, but he had a farm with few mares, jumping mares. So he took me to the races and I got a passion for the horse, the animal himself. So that's how it started. So every time I was on holidays, I was going to trainers, ride out, and I was always passionate about it. But my father is a lawyer, so I studied law for 4 years, but as soon as I finished that, I decided to travel, and I always wanted to be a trainer in Chantilly. That was my goal. Did the Flying Start course for 2 years. After that, I worked 4 years in Newmarket, working for Darley as a racing representative, so I was going with all the trainers in England and on all the racecourse. And that's where I get my good feeling about English racing. I have a good, I really enjoyed it. And then 3 years assistant to Alain de Royer-Dupré, and I set up on my own. And 2012 was my first season. Started with a very small number, but I had a lot of connections. So as soon as I proved I was able to train, my numbers grew.
And they continue to grow. You touched on the wonderful facilities you've got here at Chantilly. What a beautiful place to be able to train.
It's a lovely place to train and also to live, which was important for me and my family. Work is great, but life is more important. So, but Chantilly ticked a lot of boxes for us. It's a very good location, close to Paris, and the area is very nice. And as a trainer, you can really, we have a lot of opportunities in terms of tracks. They do a good job here, the French Jockey Club, and you can keep a horse quiet. I don't like shouting. I don't like everything has to be done very quietly and relaxed, in a relaxed atmosphere. And Chantilly track help us to do that. The forest, it's not perfect, but at least from what I've seen abroad or training on a race course, I wouldn't change it. I prefer to be here.
So Goliath is heading to Japan and the Japan Cup. What made you choose this route for him?
It's an interesting story, this horse, because he was not supposed to come into training, but we give it a go because you know the way he walks, and last year he was unbeaten. I dropped him back in trip in a group 3 at the end of the last year, and he was 4th. He was not happy, and I think he needed a bit of time. He was very late maturing horse, but he always showed a bit of ability. This year he has really strengthened. We give him the time. He went back on the farm, came back very strong, and he's strengthening, and obviously he's getting more mature. But the beginning of the season has been difficult because he's a horse that can pull quite hard if there is no pace. He's getting better, and we had to change jockey all the time because couldn't have the same jockey on him. So that was a little bit messy at the beginning of the year. But as soon as things were going his way, he proved he was very good. So when he won the Group 3 at Longchamp, he went to the front, nobody challenged him, and he cruised home. It was fantastic. And then Grand Prix de Chantilly, he pulled a lot, not good. Hardwick, he pulled a lot. But we had this plan. We wanted to go to England to find a little bit of more pace. So the plan was to go to the King George. Hardwick, he ran a good race, despite the fact that he pulled a lot. And in the King George, everything went his way. I mean, the pace was strong, he settled. And Christophe Soumillon is a fantastic horseman. He's a type of jockey, even if he doesn't ride the horse, he knows them very well. And so he always wanted to ride him. And when we spoke before the race, you feel like he has ridden this horse for all his life. And he has so much confidence in him.
Rode him once in the King George. He won very easily that day in a great race. So I think it's normal now to look with him which kind of big races he still can run because he's gelding now, so unfortunately he couldn't run the Arc, but yeah, for sure the horse looks in great shape. He walked well yesterday morning, and now we're gonna see how he's gonna respond in Japan. It's always very tough to go over there, but I think yeah, he's one of the big favorites in the race, so we're gonna be very confident with him.
And do you think he will have the right kind of qualities for a race like that?
He's the best horse probably in the world at the moment. With his rating he did in the King George, so I think that should be enough to have a good chance in Japan. It doesn't look like this year there is an amazing horse, an outstanding horse in Japan, so we will see. But for me, you can never really know before a race what's gonna happen. There is a long travel. The ground's gonna be probably good. It's a left-hand track. Since his debut, I think he never run against on that left-hand track, so we will see. But for sure it's a very exciting moment when you know that his last 2 runs he did it so easily. For me it's important to be positive and hoping to have a great run in the Japan Cup.
Calandagan trying hard to rein him in. City of Troy having to dig really deep here. He's made every yard so far, and City of Troy, what a game performance all the way in the Judmont.
Let's talk Calandagan, one of your other big stars across the globe this year. A great season for him, and of course you ran him twice over in England before he ran the Champion Stakes, first up when winning at Royal Ascot. He was so impressive that day.
He was. To be fair, I was quite surprised the way he won because he was very far back, but he quickened very strongly. So he's a very talented horse. He's not very strong, but he's very nice. Obviously, he has a lot of ability. So we went to York, we dropped him back in distance. We were far back, but he quickened so strongly too. And I thought we were going to beat City of Troy that day, but it's one of the only time I was happy to be second because it was the first time in a Group 1, so it was a challenge. Obviously, we went to Ascot and we had a lot of things against us that day. The inner course, very soft ground. He had draw number 1, so we tried to put him into the race, and he was never happy. He was never traveling. I think he's definitely a 1.5 mile horse and needs to be left on his own, and he can quicken that way. So we will reassess that for next year. That was a very good performance. I was very upset to be beaten that day, because I think that would be very good for Calandagan for his season. But look, the winner was very strong and good. And Calandagan is only 3 years old, so we decided to stop on that. We didn't go to the Breeders' Cup, or we're not going to Hong Kong.
Yeah, you're going to rest him until next year, but there is a potential plan, isn't there, to go to Dubai?
Yes, he's a gelding, so we need to take on the big prize money abroad. So I think we will start in Dubai.
It must be some feeling for you at the moment, having the 2 highest rated turf horses in the world in your yard.
It's unbelievable. At the beginning of the year, if somebody said that to me, I wouldn't say I hope, but so no, it's very good for the team, both teams here and on the Aga Khan side. We have nice horses, and they work really hard, and so it's very good. And the fact that they ran abroad put them very high in the ranking. I think maybe Goliath could have won the Grand Prix de Saint-Cloud, but you wouldn't be sitting here talking to me.
And obviously Calandagan runs in the silks of the Aga Khan. How big a support has he been to you over the years?
It's a fantastic team. His Highness approached me 3 years ago if I wanted to take over the Aga Khan private stable, which we did. It has taken like 2 years to really reorganize things and get for myself to understand the team to understand my way of training, and also the families and the horses. And this year has been a very strong year. We could have had like a better year. It can always be better, but we missed in Group 1. Zaria was beaten in the Ghanaian very short. Obviously, Zarigana in the Prix Marcel Boussac, she was beaten, and Calandagan. Yes, and obviously Calandagan in Champions League. So it could have been an even better season, but we are very competitive, and the quality is there. So hopefully, we have. It's very interesting for me. It's interesting because it's a different way of managing. Because it's obviously owner breeder, and the whole thing is to breed and to bring back fillies into the stud, and also trying to find future stallion. But also we have to sell and make it move and turn over. So it's very interesting. And Nemoni Roof is helping me on that side. She runs the racing stable, and so we discuss it, and it's going well, and I can only see it going better and better in the future.
And I did want to ask you one question about Calandagan, because it's a debate that's been raging in England recently about how good City of Troy is as a racehorse, or was. Now he's been retired. And you obviously clashed at York and he beat you. How strong and talented a racehorse do you think City of Troy is?
He's a very, very good horse, and I think the race at York proved that, because by him coming to challenge him, he had to really kick again, and he beat the track records. My horse also beat the track record, so obviously we were going very fast in the straight. He's a fantastic racehorse, trained by an amazing trainer. I think Aidan is, the whole team over there knows what they're doing, and their system is working. And the jockey also is amazing. And Calandagan or City of Troy didn't have the same run at York. I would have loved to meet him again, but I think I would have loved Calandagan to have his testicle also. Still, so it's. But it was. I think for the sport, that race at York was really good, because we saw 2 very good horses that day. Sometimes you need these good geldings to challenge and to assess the form between races. And as you said, Calandagan beat Blue Stockings that day also at York. So maybe if he was an entire, he would have run in the Jockey Club. would have won the Jockey Club maybe and not going to York. So you have to, I think it was a very positive day for racing in general.
And have you been to Aidan O'Brien at Ballydoyle?
Yes, I spent the morning 2 years ago in January. He has been very kind to me. We discuss a lot. He's a very interesting man. And as I said, I'm looking always to improve my way of training. And I changed my way of training 2 years ago completely.
What made you do that?
Because I was upset to see English and Irish horses coming to beat us all the time at Longchamp, and the horses looked tough compared to ours, and they were going to the front or fourth wide with no cover and quicken again in the straight. And us, I felt like the French horses, they always need to have a cover, they only need to be relaxed, to be able to quicken. And so I started to think and see what was the difference, what we were doing differently. And the difference is we do hack canter here, where nobody else in the world do hack canters, and I stopped doing that. So I don't know if that's the key, but little things, plenty of little things. But I keep trying to improve my way of training. I spoke with Aidan after the Saturday of the Ark when he won 4 races, and his horses were so tough. And I said, how do you manage to have them so tough? And he said, they are very good horses. But so no, we keep looking, keep speaking with the assistant and try to improve it all the time.
Chantilly is a town steeped in heritage. Indeed, it is twinned with Epsom and has a history almost as pronounced as that of the home of the Epsom Derby. Indeed, in 1719, the racecourse was built by the Prince of Condé, and in 1834, Chantilly Racecourse hosted its first race day. 35 years later, the grandstand that still exists today, built by Honoré Domé, who also did the renovations for the Chantilly Chateau behind me, also built the grandstand that still stands today, all those years later. Chantilly Racecourse is now home to 2 of the French classics, the Prix du Diane and the Prix du Jockey Club, the French Oaks and the French Derby. And it's the latter which holds a most laudable roll of honour since the turn of the century, with the likes of Lope de Vega, Ace Impact and Almanzor all victorious in the great race. And although around here in Chantilly it is perhaps best known for its travails, exploits on the flat, just around the corner there is a national hunt yard burgeoning and ready to go. A training partnership that's going great guns here in Chantilly is the collaboration of Noel George and Amanda Zetterholm.
And while it may have been a disappointing weekend, the stable star Il est Français, there is certainly no lack of talent in this up-and-coming national hunt yard.
Couldn't dream of having a start like we've had. We've been very lucky to have big clients who supported us. I'm very lucky to have my father who's helped me along the way too. And a horse like Il est Français to get us going. I mean, he's the flag bearer and he's put us on the map.
You mentioned your father, and obviously you have some pedigree in the training ranks. Was it always an obvious route for you to take?
Yeah, I mean, I rode as an amateur, but I was never going to be a jockey. I always loved the racing, and training was the classic route to have taken. My mother's father also trained nearly 1,000 winners, so you know it was well installed in my pedigree basically, and that was always what I wanted to do. And not necessarily in France, but we've ended up here now, and great to be out here.
And how did that happen? You ended up in France?
Well, Dad always ran quite a few horses out here. I remember, well, I think I was 10 or 11, he won the Prix Morgilloise, a big grade 1, with a horse called Halley, and that whetted the appetite. And then I came over as an assistant on the flat to Fabrice Chappé, and I said to Dad, look, I think you should send a few more horses back out here and just kind of took off from there, really.
See loads of history and prestige in the Chantilly area to do with racehorses. So is it something that drew you in, that sort of posterity?
Yeah, I mean, look, Chantilly is an amazing place. My father worked here with Francois Dumaine. He said that's the place to go, and I came over here and absolutely loved it. For me, it's probably the best training centre in the world. We have incredible grass gallops, amazing gallops through the forest. The horses are very relaxed. You know, I love being out here, and France Gallop look after us amazingly too.
How did your partnership alongside Amanda Zetterholm come about?
Yeah, so myself and Amanda, we were always in the same friendship group. It was actually one evening we were having a drink, and a friend of ours, Tim Donworth, said, Noel struggles with the French paperwork and you probably don't necessarily want to be training, so I think you'd be a good match. And I came to visit the yard with Amanda, loved it, loved the environment, the facilities are incredible, and yeah, it seems to have worked out well anyway.
I can only imagine that for someone English coming over to France and having to deal with the paperwork in a different language must be really difficult.
Yeah, no, I did fail the trainer's course first time out. It's all, you have to be fluent in French, you have to know vets, accountancy, everything, so it was very tough to pass, but we got there in the end, and having Amanda's a huge asset as well. You know, I think it's the place I want to be, and I'm lucky that I managed to get the trainer's license anyway.
It does seem like a good way to mesh between you two, that one takes the business side and one takes the training side. Obviously it's not quite as distinguished as that, but two sort of broad strokes there.
If you want to be competitive with the top guys, you have to have that team behind you. Communication with social media, technology is a huge part of the business now. And it means that I can really focus on training the horses to get them at 100% on the big day.
And you and Amanda this morning have both mentioned more than one occasion what a privilege and excitement it's been to have one of your first horses be Il est Français, and how almost lucky you are to have a horse of that calibre when you're first starting out.
Yeah, no, I mean, the most important thing to say is this, because he wasn't a cheap horse in the first place. To be entrusted with him as young trainers early on in our careers is an enormous thank you to Nicolas Lagenetti's breeder and Richard Kelvin Hughes. To be entrusted a horse like that is a huge privilege, and hopefully we haven't done too bad a job.
I'd love to get your opinion on James, because of course James Reevely, that is the jockey, we all know him so well from back in the days he was riding at Catterick and Sedgefield up north, but of course he's made quite the name for himself in France, and he is Il est Français' companion, and he's done remarkably well on him too. James,
look, everyone knows I'm not sure how many times champion jockey in France, but more than most. He's top class. He's the perfect partner for a horse like Il est Français. He lets the horse do the talking, and he's a great horseman, a huge asset.
Obviously the partnership between Noel and Amanda is in its embryonic stages. How have you found it so far?
Yeah, brilliant. They've had a fantastic start, two young trainers, but to be fair, they're doing everything, they're doing the job right. They've got some very good horses, good owners, very good staff, so no, everything's there in place, so they just need to keep things going, and I think the winners will keep coming.
You've become a bit of a, I suppose, pseudo-Frenchman now, having been here for 8 years. Do you enjoy living here, and how is your French?
Yeah, I do enjoy living over here, otherwise I wouldn't be here, I don't think. I'm not here just for the prize money. French, yeah, I picked up French when I first came. I've been living over here since 2016, but I was riding over here a lot sooner than that, so I picked up French after a few seasons, and no, I'm enjoying the lifestyle.
And you live quite near the yard here, don't you?
Yeah, 15 minutes from Noel and Amanda's in La Morlaix, so it's fairly handy. A lot of trainers in this area. It's like the new market of France.
To set up with someone that you hadn't really, I wouldn't have called him a friend, and you know it's just worked out really well. Our personality gets along really well, and we have our tasks, and yeah, we have a good working relationship, I think.
I guess he had that reputation, didn't he? His dad, very famous trainer in England, so that must give you some confidence.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we set up together, but he was the man on the track with the horses. And when people were asking me, you know, we're sending horses to you with this Noel George, what's he like with the horses? And I didn't really know. You know, I'd never worked with him or anything, so it was just a challenge. So I said he's great. You know, he's grown up with it, and now we can see the results, obviously.
And I think he's very thankful for the fact that you can speak very, very good French.
Yeah, especially at the start. Suppose he doesn't need me anymore now.
You definitely didn't say that.
So I run the business really, and try and, you know, organization in the yard and between horses coming and going, a lot with the owners. The owners are my key role, so I wouldn't necessarily have to go racing unless we have owners. And I try to be, obviously I live on site, so I try to be here on a day-to-day basis on the track as well, enjoy riding out, etc. But I also attend the yearling sales around France, Ireland, England. So that, I think that's important as well, and even go around France to the breeders, because I think they're the best breeders in the world, national hunt. So you need to have a good relationship with them and see the young stock.
In terms of hopes, ambitions, what you'd like to achieve at the yard in the future for Noel George and Amanda Zetterholm, what would that be?
I think we'd like to stay in the top 10. In our first 2 years of training, we're in the top 10. So if we can keep that, that would be amazing. Maybe even go up top 5, why not? And have quality rather than quantity.
This is like when they're schooling, they hardly break stride. And it's important for them to keep the fluency, because there's obviously so much more jumping in the races.
And is that ingrained in them from quite a young age?
Our first lot there, we had 22-year-olds schooling, so
Yeah, it is.
you know, as they learn the ropes early. And the thing is that when you're jumping 12 obstacles in a 2-mile race as opposed to 8, obviously if you're losing ground,
Yeah.
it's going to be tough. The foundations of the French horses is a huge importance. You look at all those horses, that the Galopin de Champs and all these kind of things, they've run as 3-year-olds around Auteuil. No matter how big and scopy or staying chaser they might be, they've got to learn early. I think Guillaume Macaire, he always had a theory, was skiing. He said when you're a kid, if you learn to ski when you're a toddler, by the time you're 10, you're going down the slopes perfectly. Whereas if you start when you're 20, it takes a bit longer to learn.
Yeah, it's a bit like playing a musical instrument as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a similar
it's
thing.
muscle memory, you know. And
Exactly.
if you start young, if you learn to do something young, it's ingrained in you, isn't it?
And I think a lot of people often say, don't they, that because French horses start quite young over their obstacles, that maybe by the time they reach a sort of 7, 8, 9-year-old, they're a bit burnt out. But I don't think that necessarily is the case. We've seen with Galopin, he just keeps going.
Yeah, no, I think it's a question of starting early, but you also have to. Vas-y, refais un tour. It's a question of starting early, but also got to take your time and let horses develop too. It's a fine line, but I think with my British background as well as learning the French way, I think if we can amalgamate the two, hopefully we can have good results.
we heard a sample of your French there. You're getting pretty good, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I've been there 4 years now, so yeah, no, a lot of French clients, French staff. You know, you have to embrace the culture, otherwise they're not going to accept you.
I guess when you're thrust in as well, you kind of got no choice, have you? You've got to get by.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, I don't think they really accept you until you've learnt the language. You know, they appreciate that a lot because you're making the effort. Even if you're not good at it, they appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's a big part of immersing the culture if you can speak the language.
And so we come to the denouement of our French special here in Chantilly, one of the greatest equine institutions in the world. Our time here really has been magnifique. That's it for this week. Join us next time for the final episode in the series.